It is I, Cookie Magneto.
What the I'm not engaging this guy.
That's hardly up to you, Rick.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Rick and Morty Season 6, Episode 8 video. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos, and careful for spoilers for the episode if you haven't seen it yet. We'll just start at the beginning, work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments as we go along, starting with the episode title, Analyze Piss, which is a reference to the Robert De Niro movie Analyze This, who gets help from a psychiatrist played by Billy Crystal, which is similar to the plot of the episode where Rick goes to therapy with Dr. Wong, who comes back and tries to figure out what's going on with the Pissmaster villain, who is voiced by Will Forte, who did an amazing job. He's probably one of the funniest cameo scenes this season.
Seeing them all cheer as I got my ass whipped made me realize people just want to see me fail.
The opening scene is another battle that Rick and Morty are having with Mr. Nimbus, who comes back to take his island base, which is very apropos because Mr. Nimbus is a very direct reference to Marvel's Namor. We just saw Namor in live action in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. When Mr. Nimbus takes off and he splashes water on himself, that's also a reference to Namor's strength increasing when he's wet or touching water. There's a big plot point during Wakanda Forever. He's about as strong as Captain America when he's totally dry, but when he's wet or in water, he becomes about as strong as the Hulk. The oil tanker spill feels like an Exxon Valdez reference, one of the worst oil tanker spills in history, until Rick would rather destroy his base rather than give it to Mr. Nimbus because he's starting to get tired of fighting all these villains. Like, I'm getting tired of this, we need to go home. All part of the idea that he's become a magnet for these low-level supervillains, which are sort of a metaphor for online trolls. The whole episode is basically like Rick and Morty versus online trolling, online bullying. You notice he's got his old spaceship back. I'm assuming he just rebuilt this one. The next supervillain, Cookie Magneto, obviously a version of Magneto from the Marvel Comics. The colors that he's wearing make his costume seem a little bit more like Hyperion's costume. He's like Marvel's version of Superman. But because they're going with the whole Magneto joke, his powers are controlling cookies, things that are called cookies even if they aren't actually cookies, and cookie ingredients. The joke there is that he's supposed to be super overpowered because he can control sugar, which is literally in every living thing, so technically he should be able to control all biological life on the Earth. And the argument with Morty is just a reference to all the comic book jokes about characters' powers being completely off the rails and unexplained. Rick makes a Tick reference, which is a reference to all the ridiculous villains and heroes inside the universe of the Tick comic books and the TV shows. They're really crazy, and the 90s style goofball reference is another X-Men 90s reference, because in the 90s, X-Men were like the most popular comic book in the world. You also started to see a lot of edgier, a lot of weirder, a lot of crazier villains and heroes show up in the comics during this period. The whole thing about him punching down is also part of the theme of the episode, like the Pissmaster villain that they have to deal with is a metaphor for an online troll, as are the other low-level villains. They all harass Rick, which doesn't seem like a huge deal, just super annoying. Rick doesn't want to deal with it. He usually would punch down to get rid of them. In real life, this is a metaphor for online trolls going after popular posts or celebrities, and the celebrities with like really big accounts punching down metaphorically on these like little tiny accounts, trying to get a reaction out of them. Which is basically the message that Dr. Wong gives Rick later, like, oh, the best thing you can do is just not respond to them. So that's why I say the episode is kind of like Rick and Morty versus online trolls, online bullying. Mr. Calypso is a reference to Mr. Mrs. Pitlick from the Superman comics. He's a fifth-dimensional imp like this. James Gunn also recently canonized Bat-Mite to the DCU on the Peacemaker series. He's another fifth-dimensional imp, just like Mr. and Mrs. Pitlick, who stands Batman and just bugs him all the time.
I'd rather be with Bat-Mite than you.
Who's Bat-Mite?
The 2-foot-tall interdimensional imp who stands Batman. I'd rather be with him.
Really good example to this online trolls metaphor in the episode is when Mr. Calypso shows up. He just says mean things to upset Rick, doesn't actually do anything to hurt him. During the intro scene, they confirmed that this scene of Jerry in the armor suit on the council is real, technically in last week's episode because Rick traveled through the fourth wall with Morty in the actual credits. All the intro scenes were in an actual episode, but you get the idea. When Rick jokes about not shooting Batman in his Bat logo, that's another Bat-Mite reference because he's the same type of imp. We also learned that Rick is milking Calypso for his cosmic fluid from his higher dimension, so we'll see if he winds up using that for something. Sounds like it's going to be super powerful. But the joke about him profiting from the exchange, from him dealing with the supervillain trolls, is a reference to real-life celebrities and brands profiting from online trolls and hate posting. Like people posting incendiary things, trying to get a rise out of people just to profit off of it. Which Jerry also winds up doing eventually. Like he eventually winds up profiting off of being a literal social justice warrior. They reference the events of Pickle Rick again and reveal that he also tried the exact same trick later by turning himself into a housefly, which they pay off later in the episode when he does it to Mr. Goldenfold. Pissmaster shows up to harass them. He's meant to be their version of Green Goblin because of the glider and because of the greenish, kind of yellowish color too. He's played by Will Forte, probably one of the funniest cameo scenes from a celebrity that I've seen this season. Jerry complains about his bees again. They made a couple more bees references in this episode. They've done a lot this season. Jerry's bees have become a really big plot point. He makes a golden shower reference talking to Summer. There are actually a couple references to that in this episode. The real joke here, though, is that he's just a troll who's down and out on his luck. Like, he's basically harmless because Jerry is able to go toe-to-toe with him pound for pound. That's how weak and pathetic he is. He isn't an actual supervillain. He's just trying to get a rise out of them. When they're fighting around the neighborhood, though, we find out that Gene has a wife. I don't think we've ever seen her before. The kid behind him is wearing a 69 jersey. Nice. At breakfast the next day, they're eating strawberry Smiggles from Interdimensional Cable. I actually bought some of those in real life. They were selling limited edition versions a couple years ago. Like actual strawberry Smiggles breakfast cereal you could buy. Summer makes a bunch of Twitter jokes. There's been a ton of those recently because Elon Musk just bought Twitter. There's no reference to that specifically in the episode, like just general Twitter jokes because they wrote the episode a long time ago. The Jezebel reference is a real-life caddy website that posts a lot of celebrity tell-all stories and hit pieces like the one that Beth references. Rick's gun that he pulls out is the fake one that he used back during Season 3. Him using it when the orbs come is because he only plans on using it for general intimidation, like he doesn't actually plan to kill them, because he thinks they're just more harmless trolls that have shown up to harass them. The aliens are meant to be a very obvious reference to the Green Lantern Corps. The one with the giant head is specifically a reference to the Owens, like the Council is their version of the Owen Council from the Green Lantern comics, who invite Jerry to join their Justice Council, which is more of a DC Justice League Green Lantern reference, but also a social justice warrior reference, like he becomes a literal and metaphorical social justice warrior, going around stopping trolls across the universe. Their orbs are like their Green Lantern ring, so he's like a version of Hal Jordan on the series, getting a Green Lantern ring. When Rick says he was banned from the Nextdoor app, if you don't live in the United States or you don't own a house, Nextdoor is like a niche social media site just for groups that live on the same blocks. So the idea is that all of Rick's neighbors kicked him off of the app. Summer gets really specific when talking about the golden shower, making it sound like she's secretly freaky like that, like she knows about them from experience. Then we learn the orb works like the Green Lantern rings, the twist being he can only control mundane things, like it doesn't do a whole lot. The only difference here is that Rick is the one to make him his super suit, which I think is meant to set up the twist with him creating the super suit for Pissmaster. But it's more of an Iron Man type of suit with the orb acting like an arc reactor powering it. The way he uses the orb, though, is just like the Green Lantern comics and the movies, with the Green Lantern rings telling them about distress beacons across the universe, finding a Space Hitler group to take down. The Space Hitler group is meant to be a reference to the Legion of Doom from the DC comics. They have the Brain, who has a little Hitler stash painted on his bolt. Like, they're all Hitler-themed, even though a lot of them are comic book villains. This is Gorilla Grodd. This is a version of the Riddler, and it looks like they have an actual Hitler, like an old man Hitler, because he just lived to present day on the team. The banner in the background also reminded me of the Star Trek Mirror Universe Empire's banner. And this whole scene of him taking them down is the scene from the intro. The news broadcast font that they use here on the Chirons make this feel like a CNN parody. The person on the left is actually voiced by Dan Harmon. He's usually in most of the episodes, playing at least some small character in the background. I think this app is meant to be an Instagram reference, and it's supposed to be Beth's account because Summer is commenting on the post, but zoom and enhance, the girl above her commenting with the hearts is her friend that keeps wanting to bang Jerry. She was also in the last episode of the funeral, really sad because she didn't get to bang Jerry before he was killed by his bees. Squatchy is also commenting on the post, so we're wondering when he's going to come back in a bigger way. There's even another bee creature that's horny on main for him, which is just another joke about Jerry being obsessed with bees. They have another joke about Mr. Goldenfold's therapy. His big thing was corpophagia, which is literally eating poop. They made a reference to that earlier this season. Turning him into a fly, also callback to the housefly joke earlier. The funny thing here too is that Mr. Goldenfold claims that being turned into a fly cured all of his problems. My therapy is done, I don't need any more. Also secretly foreshadows Rick wanting to help Pissmaster, like secretly being a good person at heart and wanting to help people. Like he didn't want to hurt Mr. Goldenfold, he actually wanted to help him. Like here, this cures all your problems, you're fine, get out of here. Jerry goes to a breakfast-themed planet where like the entire planet is made up of breakfast-themed creatures. The bread going after the eggs is like your breakfast literally fighting with itself. The Space Mitsubishi reference is meant to pay off Rick's joke about profiting off of all this online troll behavior, being a social justice warrior. Like, Jerry is starting to become the villain. He's starting to enjoy the power and the money that's being given to him by being a social justice warrior. So he's slowly turning into a bully himself. Also, they might have had an integration with Mitsubishi cars in real life, and that might be why they use the name Mitsubishi so specifically. Like, why Mitsubishi? Probably because Mitsubishi cars in real life paid Rick and Morty a ton of money to be mentioned in an episode. I'm not sure who the rhyming string bean villain is supposed to be a reference to. Solomon Grundy rhymes in the comics, but he doesn't look anything like Grundy. Dr. Buckles actually feels like more of a Lobo DC reference. Then Rick feels sorry for Pissmaster because now he's the one that's being bullied by everyone, goes to his house to make amends and finds that he's killed himself because of all the bullying, blaming Jerry for everything. He finds out that he's divorced. He used to be this standout guy. He's got all these medals, these awards, but he's living in squalor, basically. He's down and out on his luck. He tries to spare his daughter's feelings, then redeems him in the public's eyes by pretending to be him, doing all these heroic acts. The montage of him building his suit is meant to be a reference to Iron Man in the first Iron Man movie, building the Mark I. All the bottles of piss lying around his room feel like a Howard Hughes reference, but also he's Pissmaster. He uses it for fuel and for weapons. And I love how specific they get with the character, like the bottles are toilet themed. Everything about him is piss themed. I can't wait to see some kid walking through a toy store saying, "Mommy, mommy, buy me the piss toy." They have a bunch more piss jokes, golden god, golden shower jokes, a joke about not missing, as in not missing the toilet bowl. The music they play is like a piss-themed version of Jock Jams, and the whole bomb plot you probably recognized is the one from Dark Knight Rises. Like, they basically borrowed it from that, with Batman making everyone think that he died by flying the bomb away from the city. He gets into the fight with Jerry, who comes to invite him to their version of the Green Lantern Corps. He makes a Michael Crichton Andromeda strain reference. And then when the aliens show up, they kick Jerry out after they find out about Rick, thinking that he'd been Pissmaster the whole time and they were just pulling some weird scheme, which is another reference to people profiting off of all this social justice warring and online trolling, like people who start a lot of fights online just for the purposes of profiting from it. There was like a whole era of YouTube back around 2016 when that started to happen. We call it like the EdgeCore era of YouTube. That's when they started hardcore banning channels for doing really, really bad stuff, and they started demonetizing a lot of channels. The whole joke about the family ignoring the obvious continuity errors when he says that he was Pissmaster the whole time is also just a comic book joke about continuity not making sense if you look back long enough. Summer also makes an Avatar movie reference. We're getting Avatar 2 really soon in theaters. And all of Rick's goodwill is undone when he can't keep it inside and shows Morty the note. The whole joke there is that they were only praising him because they thought it was a noble sacrifice getting beat up by Jerry just to make him feel better, but it was only a noble sacrifice as long as Rick kept the secret. During the post-credit scene, they reveal the Green Lantern Council votes on replacement members. They make the Scarlett Johansson reference because of the Marvel movies, she played Black Widow, and agree that it'll be Mr. Nimbus, Rick's nemesis. The joke about his reps saying that he's busy now is a Marvel Studios Kevin Feige joke, like Kevin Feige won't let them use Namor on their Green Lantern Council because they have the rights to the character. It actually felt like a pretty short episode, even though it's meant to be the same length as all the other episodes. But if you spotted any other Easter eggs or references that I didn't talk about during the video, just write them below in the comments, and my full episode 9 video will post next week after they release it. Everyone click here for my new Ant-Man 3 Kang video, and click here for my new Green Lantern video, Speak of the Devil. A lot of Green Lantern references in this episode. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.